Welcome back to eSIM Studios. Well. It looks like we have some very interesting news. Well, do you remember the report when I mentioned last week that CMF was going to cancel their CMF Phone 3 Pro? It's official. They're not putting out a CMF Phone 3 Pro. Well, we got news today that Nothing is going to launch a B branded phone. Nothing is more suitable to launch now a budget entry device. And it appears that's what the B is going to be. It's going to be a new budget entry level device. A statement from Evan Evangelidis, who is a co founder. We all know who Carl Pei is. Well, Akis was also a co-founder. I think he has, well, I know he has some stake, some equity in the company and founded it with Carl Pei. Now, Akis has been more focused on the CMF line, and he actually lives in India and is trying to jumpstart the CMF brand. Well, but he's still tied to the Nothing brand, but he put out a statement on Twitter saying, what does B stand for? Nothing. So he says it's simply a continuation of our naming system. Numbers represent generations, while letters indicate different product segments. The A series has been our best selling smartphone line, bringing the best of Nothing's design innovation while focusing on the features that matter most. The B series builds on the success of the A series by expanding into a new segment while maintaining a clear product hierarchy. The A series remains our most premium line below flagship products, which doesn't carry a letter designation. This avoids overusing suffixes and provides a clear naming structure as the portfolio expands. Hope this is clear. So it appears we're getting a new Nothing phone. Now, we don't have specs, we don't have a release date. I'm expecting it to come rather soon. I think what they have here is they're essentially rolling the CMF Phone 3 Pro into the one that got canceled into the Nothing phone. I don't know what they're going to call this. Is this, since it's going to be their first line, he said the numbers represent the generation and the letters represents what segment it's in. So if they have not released a B series phone yet, the most logical name for this new device is going to be the Nothing Phone B or 1B. I don't know. Probably Phone B, and then this time next year or the second generation will be Nothing Phone 2B, and then 2B, and then Nothing Phone 3B. You can see how it will continue on, but Nothing is more geared to launch a phone. They have more resources, essentially more money, more funding to launch, to get this in R&D for marketing. The price to launch a smartphone for CMF has got to be much more. I think CMF is working with less funding, less resources, less capital than Nothing is. So it was kind of a shock to see this at first today, but now that if you really think about it, it makes sense. It makes complete sense. Now, I don't know if they're going to launch this in the United States. I guarantee you it will be available in India. It will be available in Europe. But I don't know if this is coming to America. It could be launched on a beta program, which they have done for most of their devices, minus the original Phone 1. But I believe what CMF is doing is, remember, these smartphones are planned years in advance. So since CMF canceled the Phone 3 Pro, I think they're going to take all that R&D. I think they're going to take all that technology. They probably already have a mold or a device that will resemble the Phone 3 Pro. They probably got CMF. They probably got 50 to 60% of what you have to do to launch a smartphone, meaning research, development, design, specs, sourcing all these suppliers for parts. They probably got 60, 70% into that project and then realized, well, shit, it's going to be mad expensive and it's just not feasible, meaning they're not going to make any money on this. So that's why they scrapped it. And then I'm sure they said, well, hey, behind the scenes, however the conversation got started, let's roll this into a new product line for the Nothing phone, and we can properly market it. We can finish that 30, 35, 40% of what is required to launch a phone. Because once you get, they probably already have probably stopped right up at part suppliers. So I don't think they have this manufactured yet, but I do think they have a mold, meaning like what it's going to look like, and a list of suppliers. And now that we're getting the news of this, they'll probably have bankrolled this into the Nothing phone, meaning get the part suppliers on the phone, start placing your orders. Manufacturing should start probably, I don't know, next month, depending on where they're at in the process. But I'm expecting this to get started relatively soon. This should be a really good seller for Nothing. I've always said the very best budget phone, and y'all know I don't really like budget phones to use budget phones, or they are needed in the market because it's just a fact. No, not a lot of people can afford $1,000, $1,500 smartphone, let alone every year, right? Some people just aren't that real techie, but they want something kind of different. Maybe look, some people are on a tight budget. This is a needed product, and I'm very, very happy to see them essentially roll that canceled CMF Phone 3 Pro into the Nothing umbrella and launch that, because Nothing is much more suitable as far as marketing, stuff like that, the manufacturing costs. I think this could be a hit depending on, obviously, how they market it, where they sell it, and what the price is going to be. So speaking of the price, I have no clue what they're going to price it at. I think what they're going to do is $299. I think going over the 250 mark, going over the 300 mark is probably, well, it was too much for CMF to handle. As I mentioned, probably wouldn't make a profit. But I think if Nothing can hold this no more than 350, I would expect 299, essentially $300. And I think if you're Nothing, I think you could even bump it up to 349. And here's why. It's all perception. CMF is known for the more affordable, cheaper products. I think you can ask more for a product if it's coming from a premium brand. Let's look at Toyota and Lexus, right? They're essentially the same cars. I used to work for Toyota. They're the same parts. They just have a different logo on the front. A Toyota, a Lexus, the same parts, same car. The only thing that's different essentially is the logo on the car. And they ask, almost double for a Lexus what they do with Toyota. So it's just that Lexus name, right? Well, same thing with CMF and Nothing. It's essentially, as I mentioned, they already have a phone, they already have an idea, they already have a look, they already have suppliers. They're just going to throw the Nothing logo on there, and you can ask more for this phone, meaning they can ask more and actually make a profit depending on how many they sell, but it is possible. It is feasible to make a profit if they sell X number of phones. So I think that's exactly what's going on here. And I think it's a fantastic idea. I didn't even think of this the other week when I mentioned CMF was canceling this phone. But if they keep it, let's say 350, 349, 350. So they'll have a budget phone at 350. They will have a mid-range phone. Now they have two, the 4A, the 4A Pro. I think the 4A starts at for $400, mid 450s. I think now there has to be some separation between budget and mid-range. We all know when the A series started out, they started out at like 349, but as the time's gone on, everything's getting more expensive. But I think if they have something around 350, they got the A series, which is essentially 499, and then they have their flagship at 699. I think they can do. I think they can work with this. I think they can do something with this. So I'm excited to see what it's going to look like. No, the picture on the thumbnail is not the new B series phone. That was the phone that they cooked up with MKBHD when he said, if I could have my perfect phone, and then nothing made him the perfect phone. Well, that's just, but hell, who knows? Maybe they will make that. So right now, that's not the new B series phone, but it could be. I wouldn't be surprised. Knowing nothing, they'll come up with something cool. But I'm very excited for this. I just hope they bring this to the US. Now, I know, again, not a big budget and or mid-range phone guy, but our options are so scarce here in the United States. It would be nice if they could bring this new B series phone to the US, because then you'll have a viable option in the budget segment. I don't like budget and or mid-range phones except for nothing. I never purchased mid-range phones except for nothing, because the nothing phones, they are so fluid, they're so fun to use, and that's why I was so disappointed I had to send mine back, because of the network issues. They're great to use for a budget phone. They're fast, they're smooth. Hell, the CMF Phone 2 Pro, a year or two ago, that was what, $249. That's a great buy at $250, and you get SD card support. So let's hope they continue that SD card support here. With the memory, I don't know what you're going to get. We can guess, right? You're going to get no Wi-Fi 7, especially on this budget phone, but you're probably going to get Wi-Fi 6, obviously. Probably going to do 8 gigs of RAM. Remember, this is an entry-level phone. I just hope they give us a 256 gig option. 8 gigs of RAM with 256 storage, probably base 128, and then a 256 gig storage, because I want to use some of that 256 gig storage on RAM booster or RAM expansion, and use some for that. But it's not going to have the best UFS storage. Look, you have to remember, this is an entry level phone, so you have to corral your expectations. You have to keep your expectations under control. It's not going to have nothing phone 3 specs or Motorola Signature specs or OnePlus 15 specs. You got to chill, right? But if you're looking to spend $250, it's the best $250 phone you can buy. So I will certainly wait to see what they come out with. Wait to see what cameras, sensors they put on there, and what storage variants they have. I just hope they bring it to the US, because this would be perfect to purchase and then give away on eSim Studios YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe to our channel, because we do giveaways weekly. And I'm looking to give away a phone, our first ever phone giveaway. Well, I think this Nothing Phone B has eSim Studios giveaway written all over it. So if they make this available for the US, I'm going to buy one and give it away. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss anything, especially the new Nothing Phone B. Peace.
Yeah. Woo. I just need my space right now. Fresh off the G5 jet, on my way to a brand new